What if he becomes a Greg Odom where he keeps getting injured and he never pans out? To me, there's just too much pressure on this young kid's back that was unnecessary, didn't need to happen. But it's all for the big baller brand. So at the end of the day, he's getting what he wants. And as a family, they're going to continue to move as a unit. I do respect that. They move as a unit. There's no division. There seems to be no division. Sam Bowie. I appreciate that, Michael Mahler. All right, so we kind of already talked about the Dubs, but we got to talk about this game from, I believe that was last night or the night before. The Warriors versus the Thunder. I think it was KD or it was Russ that they were asked, is this a rivalry? They said no. This is a rivalry. This is a real deal rivalry. Well, both of these guys don't like each other. I love it. I love it. It's competition. They're showing that you don't have to be all lovey-dovey all throughout the game. They play hard at each other. So I appreciate it. It was a good game. You could just see the upper hand that OKC had from beginning to end. It was not like the Warriors almost weren't in this game at all. It was very, very lopsided. In the big three with the Thunder were moving. They were moving and shaking. And then you got Melo once you get him hot. And you got PG-13 that was doing some things in there. So I want to get your thoughts on the game. We watched the game together, so it was fun to watch for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a rivalry. I mean, it's a rivalry even before this beef between, KD and Westbrook. It was a rivalry when KD was in OKC. When they had the Warriors down 3-1 and the Warriors came back. And and to be frank, I didn't want KD to come over to the Warriors. I prefer he stayed in OKC and see what would happen the following year with them being in full strength and us being in full strength. And I can understand KD's issue as far as the style of play, and everybody likes the style that the Warrior plays in. They really like the culture. That's what it's about. It's about a culture where they enjoy playing together, and they enjoy sharing the ball. But, when you got OKC, man, you got these shooters, like Paul George and Melo, and when Westbrook drive, and he's always averaging a triple-double, so that means he gives the assist out. But now you got these two shooters that he can assist to, and they can knock him down. It's definitely going to be a good series, and that's what we're all waiting for. That series to come down.
Exactly.
But it's definitely a rivalry, and I think like I mentioned before. The Dubs, it's hard for them to focus. You've been in the finals 3 years in a row. You got 2 out of 3 championships. So it's hard to stay focused. And these teams are they're geared and they ready. They got this game circled, so they want to show them what they can do. And and the Dubs, they get exposed, man, because they loosey goosey with the ball, and they know, if you pressure Klay Thompson, that he's not a driver, he's not a ball handler. Me and my wife always joke around because she's a big Warriors fan. Instead of him playing with Rocco in the offseason, he need to get in the gym and start working on his handle, and stop playing around with that dog and work on his handle. So, you just can't be one-dimensional.
Right.
And now people look at films and they see what's going on with Klay. He's a catch shooter. He's a catch and shoot. And he'll light you up, man, if you let him shoot. But if you jam him up, he plays good defense. But you jam him up, he can't drive. He can't handle the ball. And same thing with Draymond. When he drives, he's not a finisher. He likes to assist. So Draymond can average a triple-double, but then they get loosey-goosey with the ball. Him and Steph. And they try to make these fantastic passes instead of a simple pass, and end up turning the ball over. So it was a disappointing win because it was all hyped up. And Westbrook was kind of flexing his muscles and whatnot, but we can't wait till we meet them in the playoffs.
Yeah, that series is going to be fun to watch. If it comes down to that, I hope so. Tyler Butler lighting up the chat room. I appreciate that. He says Ben Simmons is LeBron without a jumper. I think that's a good comparison. You got to give Ben Simmons some time. KD was only hungry for a chip. Now he has one. He's full. Looks different this season. Okay. Mm-hmm. He also says OKC's biggest downfall will be the bench, not a deep team, which will be exposed in the playoffs. I agree 100% to that comment. All you have is a starting 5. Once you get to the bench, you've got some young talent, but they're not anywhere near going to be able to compete. I don't think with Golden State's bench when it comes to the playoffs. Me and my dad, which is on the show, that's the other voice that you're hearing in studio with the BS3 studio, BS3 home studio anyway. But we were talking about this off the air. Clay's going to be coming up on his contract ending, and you were saying you don't think they're going to re-sign Clay, which I thought was interesting because he's a big part of this nucleus. And that's a question to you guys out there. Do you think Clay is going to re-sign? And I'm just wondering, how is that going to change the relationship? I think that would dramatically change how they gel together. I think.
Well, when you look at the last couple of years, Clay, he's becoming a streaky shooter. The Splash Brothers, they had a phenomenon before KD came, and that's why I was against KD coming, because I knew putting KD in the mix, because he got to get his shots, that would affect Clay. Not only would it affect his efficiency, but it also affect them psychologically, because he was always there as one of the Splash Brothers. Now you got KD coming in that can shoot lights out from the three, and sometimes Clay would wither away in the fourth quarter because KD and Steph would take over, and sometimes because of that it would affect him, psychologically, and his game. He would have 3, 4, 5, bad games where he's in a slump, and so it's a business. I mean, if this guy, like I said, if he doesn't get his penetrating game up, that's what's going to make a difference. He's got to be able to penetrate, because you got a lot of guys that can catch and shoot threes now. And you got to give it to Steph and Clay, because they changed the whole far as parameter shooting style in the NBA. So everybody's starting to shoot, even from high school on up. In college, they're all practicing that shot, but he's got the outside shot. So my thing is that if he doesn't produce this year, you got one more year on his contract, they can find someone that can catch and shoot, and it'll be, unfortunately, it may affect us, negatively initially. But when you just look at his numbers, man, and his style of play, and his whole demeanor, it's just changing. And I think, they got rid of Harrison Barnes because of, his particular demeanor. He wanted more. He should have signed. And, now he's in Dallas. I know y'all happy. The Mavericks is happy.
Yeah.
Because he closed out a game the other night. But I didn't think Harrison Barnes was going to leave. They got rid of him. I mean, a lot of players that we really, fall in love with, the Dubs, they tend to get rid of them. When you look at that 2014 championship team, or 2015 championship team, there's only 5 players left off of that team. And only 5 left off of that team. When you look at Mo Speaks, Mo Buckets, we used to love him, and the Brazilian Blair, we loved him, and so they can plug some pieces in there that can really handle their own. So that's where I am, and I think Joe Lacob, he's no nonsense type of guy. He wants to win. If you're not contributing, you gotta go. Gotta go.
Tyler Brother made a very good comment. They tried to trade Clay twice, which I forgot about that. They have already tried to trade him, so it's already starting to be known that he is available. And if you want to get something for him, I believe you do have to trade him. You can't just let him walk away and not get anything from him. And I think that's going to be huge. All right, we got to talk about the Celtics. They were on a 16-game winning streak. They are no longer on a 16-game winning streak. They lost to the Heat. But to me, this Kyrie is full head of steam right now. Kyrie is playing some of the best basketball. He is probably the front runner, or 1A, 1B. I think the Greek Freaks are right up there with the MVP, candidates. But I think Kyrie is trying to prove a point that he can lead this team. Gordon Hayward, they're playing better. You almost forget that Gordon Hayward was even on the team. Jason Tatum's playing lights out, which I knew he was going to be a good player. His length and his ability is crazy. Jaylen Brown, but they end up losing to the Heat. But this team is going to be big in the Eastern Conference. And I still think we have a possibility to see them and the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Finals. But I wanted to get your thoughts on the Celtics, how you feel about Kyrie and what they're doing this year.
Yeah, I think Kyrie, made a move. A lot of people were scratching their heads, as far as playing with LeBron, but he shows he has the potential, as a leader. And he was tired of being under the shadow of King James. And, when you look at this young team, another young team that's up and coming, have great potential. Hayward went down, you can just kind of imagine what kind of team they would be. But when Hayward went down, I think Brown just rose up. This boy Brown, Jaylen Brown, Cal Bear. I mean, these guys are balling, man. But Danny Ainge, you got to give it to him. I mean, he put a nice team together, but they're like $35 million over cap, so they're gonna have to win. Because he can do some negotiation and he can do some changing around. But they paying these guys a lot of money, and they got a good coach. So I really see them doing well over the next few years. I just don't know if Hayward's will never be the same. That was an ugly injury. You hate to see anybody get hurt the way he did, and I know with technology and the way the medical science is today, they can mend them back together again like they did. Paul George, but it was a worse injury than Paul George. I mean, this guy. Yeah. I mean, it was nasty. It was nasty.
The way his foot was going, and the way it was supposed to, it was basically at a 90-degree angle. That's an injury that I think it's going to be hard for him to come back from that. Who knows when he'll actually come back? He may not be ready at the beginning of next year. Who knows what's going to happen with him? And that was a nasty injury. It was nasty.
Yeah. But if they can stay healthy, I mean, Kyrie, he's injury prone. Right. And you look at Horford, he has some issues, and Tatum, that young guy. They stay healthy, they can make some noise in the Eastern Conference.
All right. Tyler Butler says, I saw Jaylen Brown work out over the summer, and I knew this kid was going to be good. He also says Boston will face the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Finals, but won't beat the Cavs in a series. I do think that's how it's going to go. When Isaiah Thomas gets back, you put him into the mix. That's going to be crazy. Also, I think Kevin Love is not going to be with this team after the trading deadline. The Kevin Love experiment, which did not work out. It just didn't. I don't think he knows what type of player he's supposed to be in this system. He's just not the same player. So they're going to probably make some type of deal before the trade deadline. LeBron's probably going to be whining probably when you get to the trade. I don't have enough people. You got your best friend, okay? Chill. You got your best friend, and you got Isaiah Thomas, and you still have Kevin Love, which that doesn't seem to be working out. But I think we're definitely going to see the Cavs in Boston. Don't sleep on the Wizards. They're still out there. Also, if Philly, when they get Markelle Fultz back, whenever that does happen, I know they're young, but who knows what they can do. So let's talk about these Lakers. There was a game on last night as well, or night before last, whatever it was. I think it was the night before last. But the Lakers versus Sacramento. The Lakers they're a young team, obviously. Also, you look at the Sacramento Kings, who they're a young team as well, but they got Zebo with the experience. They also have De'Aaron Fox, which is a great player. I think they have Vince Carter, who's there. So these are two young teams, rising teams, which I think, and Tyler Butler, I want to give a shout out to you. He did a podcast called Screw the Kings. Go check that out. Enough with the BS podcast on Spreaker.com, talking about that Western Conference Finals back in the day with the Lakers and the Kings, which I think we could possibly see that happen again. I don't think it's impossible. Both of these teams are young. Give them some time. It seems like the Kings are closer though, because they have experienced guys on the squad. The Lakers don't really have that. They kind of got a free for all with young guys, but I don't think they're really there yet. But I wanted to get your thoughts on those two teams.
No, I agree.